Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to put some focus on how to improve our individual written arguments, in particular focusing on row 3 of the rubric for the individual written argument. This is where students will be evaluated on how well they understand and analyze multiple perspectives. So in this short video we're going to talk very briefly about some common mistakes and then how you can take the work you've already done and improve upon it so that you can improve your score on this row of the rubric. One of the most common mistakes students make is that as we transition out of the individual written report from performance task number 1, a lot of kids are still focused on that idea that their paper is framed by lenses or disciplines. And in the individual written argument, what happens is those kids then think that their paper needs to include multiple disciplines or multiple lenses. They feel like they as an individual have to do the job that the group did in the first performance task, but that's not necessarily true. Here in performance task number 2 for the individual written argument, we need to talk about and analyze the multiple perspectives or arguments that are present relative to our topic. So for example, if we were taking a look at the issue of whether or not foster care is harmful, right here, if I take a look at this student's attempt at multiple perspectives, we see foster care impacts mental health, foster care impacts physical health, and foster care impacts emotional development. That's really just identifying different ways in which foster care could be bad. It's not conveying an argument, and it's definitely not advancing the idea that there's a solution to the idea that foster care is harmful. So this is a very common mistake that students make, where they just think that listing different disciplines will achieve the goal of having multiple perspectives, and it does not earn them the high score on row 3 of the rubric. Let's take a look at a more nuanced argument, or a more complex argument, that there's a relationship between foster care and future employment. Well, not only has the student helped to focus the topic of the paper a little bit by making some narrow choices, because we're looking at the specific relationship between foster care and future employment, but now we can see that on its most basic level, we can divide this into two separate yet related arguments or perspectives. On one hand, we have foster care has no negative impact on future employment, and on the other, foster care has a negative impact on future employment. So both of those are clearly stated arguments. Now we're moving into the neighborhood where we can say that we have multiple perspectives. And remember, for your project, you might have more than two arguments, or your perspectives don't necessarily have to be in direct opposition to each other. In this example, we do see a binary choice where they are in somewhat opposition to each other. One says no negative impact, the other one says yes, negative impact. But for your paper, you might have some similar or parallel arguments. But focusing in on this example, we take a look at foster care has no negative impact, and on the other side has a negative impact. And then from there, I can start to draw evidence from my academic sources, going back to my annotated bibliography, and looking at some evidence that can support my claim that foster care has no negative impact on future employment, and then also find additional evidence from another academic source to support that claim. This will help me to establish a very clear and well articulated perspective that the foster care has no negative impact on future employment. So I'm identifying evidence and putting it in relationship with that claim. Remember, we need claims, we need evidence, and then we'll need reasoning for why that evidence is good evidence. On the other side of our graphic organizer here, we'll see foster care has a negative impact on future employment. Once again, I'm going to follow that pattern. I want evidence from an academic source to support the claim that it has a negative impact, and at least one other source or additional evidence from another academic source to support that claim. If I follow that pattern for at least two perspectives present in my topic, I can guarantee that I'm going to earn the high score on this row of the rubric. If the paper does not clearly identify the existence of multiple perspectives first, then it will get a 0 on that row. Once we get to 2 perspectives, and once those 2 are established, the paper can move forward into getting a high score, particularly if we can identify how these perspectives relate to each other. Going back to that concept of putting them in conversation. So what does that look like? Well, let's take this same argument, and once again, that pattern, I have my 2 perspectives, I have my evidence related to them, but now I'm going to bring in my connective language, talking about how the evidence either supports or contradicts, refutes, correlates, questions, or agrees. Those kinds of samples. How does the evidence for one claim support the evidence that also relates to that claim, or how does that evidence contradict the evidence for the opposite claim? So adding in that connective language, that's what our readers are looking for. They want to see that we have put these claims and evidence in conversation with each other. I know as a reader, when I see supports, contradicts, refutes, correlates, or raises questions, my attention is drawn to that, and I'm now able to assign a high score to the students. So remember, just to review, going back, a list of disciplines or lenses that relates to the topic will not help me to earn the high score here. I need to clearly identify perspectives, and remembering an AP seminar, a perspective is communicated via an argument. It's not enough to say foster care is harmful. I need to explain where that harm may be. Foster care has negative impact on future employment. That's a direct relationship. All right, so I hope this video helped you in terms of understanding what is needed for multiple perspectives. Remember, multiple just means at least 2, but you could also have more than that. And also, they don't have to be directly opposite each other. They just have to be different. I hope this video helps you, and good luck on your paper.